Welcome, Rebekka. It is great to see you.
Hello, Mark. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for
Great to see you.
appropriately. You deserve to be on the Leaders Who Care video conversations here, and people will see why in a few minutes. We just chatted again a little bit before this about what was the expression you used about when we were talking about one project at a time.
Like purpose, finding your purpose, I guess.
Yeah, I know you said one. You said something about one stone at a time. I can't remember.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. No, some projects kill a lot of stones, or kill a lot of birds with one stone. Like you have a lot of side effects, and then it's very rewarding to see that.
Yeah, although we're not promoting to throw stones at birds, in case they're listening, but
no, certainly not.
So it is great to have you. I can't wait to get started. But why don't we begin, if you would, by kind of formally introducing yourself, tell a little bit about your background, not everything, but a little bit about your background, and then we'll chat.
Sure. So I'm Rebekka Grun von Jolk. I am a team leader in human development in the Africa region of the World Bank. And my teams originate and supervise the credits we give to governments in Africa. And we also assist the governments in implementing the programs that are financed through these credits, mostly in the area of social protection and jobs. And as we were chatting, as I mentioned, this is something that fills me really with purpose. I don't have to look for purpose. It's my team and I are quite energized with what we do and with the objective of it, meaning improving people's lives and developing countries.
That's good. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, family. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm originally from Germany. I lived a bit all over the place. I lived in the UK, in Switzerland, in Colombia. And as I work in diverse developing countries, I've been on an extended mission in the Middle East, in Africa, in Latin America. And I wrote my PhD with data from Colombia. And I work quite a bit in countries also affected by fragility, violence, and conflict. And I seek to adapt what we do. I seek to adapt the long-term development work of multilateral agencies like the World Bank to contexts that are relatively fragile. So making our operations fit for that kind of context. It's another thing that energizes me. Family, I'm married, I have 3 kids. I'm very, very grateful for the husband I have because he makes Marty Ginsburg look uninvolved. He's very, very hands-on dad and in the house. So that helps a lot. Yeah, and we are a little busy, chaotic family.
But life's always an adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, hey,
certainly, yes, yeah, that is.
We all talk about purpose. We talk about our why, and I often like to ask the question a little bit differently, Rebekka. Why do you do what you do? How did that happen?
Well, I really believe that every human being has a unique purpose and unique talents. And I really want to work towards letting those talents flourish. I want to help everybody to really become their best and have the chances and have the resources to become their best. So working for that really sort of fires me up and motivates me. And I try to see that, or I don't even try to see it, but I see it in every human being, this uniqueness and this unique purpose to be here and to achieve something sustainably. So that's that motivates me.
Did something happen when you were a kid that you said, man, I got to do something?
Did something happen? No, I was always very curious, I guess, right? It's like I was curious as to, as kids discover the world, as you learn more through education, you always want to see a little bit more. You want to, in German, you say you want to look beyond your plate. So I wanted to look beyond my plate in a way, and I went on a gap year to Colombia, lived there for a while, and it was amazing. It was an eye opener on so many levels. I formed friendships that lasted for life, and I got to know a whole new environment, culture different from my own, and it motivated me. I had to say a lot of preconceptions got reformed in the process. The horizon broadened, my perception broadened, and it was altogether a very, very pleasant experience that formed me for life, I guess. So that's the closest to, if you want, like a catalyst childhood experience.
Well, it didn't have to be, a bad experience, but I mean, I'm sure your kids are enjoying the experiences that they get because of that from you. So
thank you.
The best education ever. It's interesting. It's taken decades for I believe corporate leaders to realize that that actually caring or aligning themselves with social and environmental impact is actually good for business too. Not to mention it's good for getting the very best people to join you, because that's where they want to work. So you've been engaged in like I said, a global career. You lived in different countries. You speak different languages too, if I remember right. What do you speak?
I do. I speak, well, German, English, French, Spanish, and sort of intermediate Russian.
Oh, what the hell? Très bien. C'est bon. So you combined your global career. It combines really economics, human development for sure. Now a lot with the World Bank, and especially for one thing that really caught my attention: working mothers. Can you tell us about? First of all, I want you to tell people what does it mean to be a mom of a tiger, a dragon, and a lion. That they got to know for sure. And then to share your work with Burkina Faso.
You made me laugh there. Yeah, no, that's true. See that, yeah, I have 3 kids aged 4 to 10. And, there's this image of the tiger mom, but I have to admit, I'm no tiger mom pushing my kids, but I have to realize that I have tiger kids, right? So I have to do justice by them. And, but it's them, it's not me. But as President Obama said, all parents brag on their children. So I'm very happy to report that, the tiger girl just published her first story, and the dragon baby taught herself piano and is working very hard on that. And the little lion cub, just this morning, he explained to me how the different parts of the brain work. So yeah, tiger kids, right? I need to do justice by them. And of course, yeah, helped by a partner who's very involved. So that's very important. But yeah, so bridging that to Burkina, I mean, we do a lot of different things in Burkina, but I'd like to single out the mobile crashes that you may have heard about. So it's a bit of a story. So let's go back a bit in time. I took over this project that's a public works project. So public works is like workfare, temporary jobs to create small infrastructure, wells or streets or sweeping the street, to create jobs for people who really need an income, and at the same time do something good for the community. So in Burkina, we had a lot of demand from vulnerable women to join this program. So about 60+% of participants were women, and they brought their children to work. So we went on mission and we saw them bringing children to work, parking them under a tree, rotating, supervising them. And it was relatively dangerous, right? It's a construction environment. So it's not super safe for the kids, plus it's not very developmental. And at the same time, it's sort of a coping mechanism for the mums, right? They can't be really productive if they have to rotate and supervise those kids. Mm-hmm. So I saw that and said, look, we have to formalize this. Let's turn it into sort of real daycare, right? And so like, we hedge the risk, we make it a bit safer for the kids, and we provide something developmental for them. And so what were the key ingredients? We trained some of the public works participants, some of the female beneficiaries, as childcare assistants. Specialists from the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Women and Families, developed a very short training program that allowed them to become childcare assistants, and it provided them with sort of a blueprint of what do you have to do all day. And this timetable doesn't look very different from daycares here in DC or maybe in LA, right? It's an orientation and it's a short training program. So very interested women, plus women that were pregnant, of which there were many as well, and who can't do the heavy construction work so easily, they became childcare assistants, permanent childcare assistants, and they were allowed to validate that as public works participation and gain the same salary. And then there was a curriculum, a brief curriculum based on the national curriculum, and a toys list and equipment list adapted on the national regulation, but everything sort of a bit easier and lighter, and yeah, and no roof, right? The roof was a big neem tree, or it was later UNICEF gave us some tents, but definitely no fixed structure. So that as the construction work site where the working mothers are progresses, the crash can also keep moving. So that was the mobile crash. And I mean, the cooperation by the different institutions was wonderful. So the mayor, the local authority, the different ministries I mentioned, they also participated in quality supervision. The specialists dropped by regularly, made sure the curriculum is applied, the material is there, and also link the kids to the health system to make sure the vaccinations are topped up and things like that. And yeah, we are very happy with the results so far. I mean, the women can work much more productively. They're not interrupted. They can earn an income. Even when the public works are over and they start up their own business, they can work with much more tranquility, and they maintained the crash alive. And at the same time, it's developmental for the kids. So the human capital should be improved. And women have much better bargaining power. So a huge weight of chores, if you want, is taken off their shoulders, at least for part of the day. And that gives them much more agency sort of in the environment. Yeah, that is basically the result in Burkina. And now it scaled to 20 sites in Burkina, and now it went to 5 more countries. So it's in Cameroon, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in Ethiopia, in Madagascar, and in Guinea. Most recently, we had sort of question from Guinea.
It's amazing, and it's you know, I had a partner at Deloitte that was one of my early influencers, and he used to tell me, you know, Mark, brilliance is simple, and I didn't know what he meant because, and he said things can be complicated, but actually the brilliance of the solution is simple, and you can kind of apply it to this. There's a lot of things you have to do to make it work, obviously, but the actual idea is simple.
It's very simple, exactly. It's very simple, yes. And that makes it nice in a way because it's easy to scale. It's also not very expensive. It's like, I think it's $3 per kid per week, something like that, right, at most. And that's at a ratio of 1 to 5, you know, 1 childcare per 5 children. So it is actually, you can turn it into quality childcare, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, but it's simple, exactly. It's simple and hopefully gets spread even more.
It's funny also, yeah, I had a client, they did this years and years ago, and this is where I first started getting way back, the word care kept coming up and coming out. Long story short, there was a lot of young family parents working at this big company. It was world headquarters, big logistics company. And they were stressed out. They had to go get their kids and this and that, also things. Long story short, they were figuring, well, how do we, and it started to get a reputation of not a good place to work because people were stressed. So they needed to change that. And that's what we were brought into discussion about talent. And someone said, well, what do we do to take care of them? And somebody who was dumb said, give them an extra sick day. Well, that's really going to make a difference. Or give them a treadmill. That'll make them feel good. What they did was they built a daycare center at the world headquarters. Sound familiar? And yet you're doing it.
Great. Yes, and I'm sure you saw the impact. Yes.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And we were actually able to represent them.
Great.
Trademark the term leaders who care as leaders who care about their people. And what I love about what you're doing is you're connecting many dots, like you say. I mean, human development, the actual child care, the stress off the parent, the self-esteem of the parent to be able to do all that. There's a lot of touch points that you might have almost got every SDG in there. I'm not sure.
Almost, yeah, definitely. And then you have the education, you have the health, you have the social safety, you have environmental safety, yeah, sustainability, yeah.
Can you tell us how does the funding work for projects like this? How do you do that?
For example, well, when it starts with a discussion with the government, right? Often the government themselves has a demand and say, you know, we like this, we need more jobs for a certain demographic, say for vulnerable youth in the countryside. Can you help us with job creation? And then we would go out and, you know, do a diagnostic and see, okay, who exactly needs what kind of help. And so we can come up with sort of a proposal of what might be done. And then the government, co-shapes that with us, of course, and sort of like together we come up with a proposal of what it looks like. And in the World Bank, it's a matrix structure. So I sit in the sector, so in the social protection and jobs sector, and then there's a country group with a country director who holds the budget. And then we would come with a country demand to the like country director and say, look, country X has a particular need for such a project. This is what we found. This is, you know, it really is a vulnerability. It really is a priority. It would have a significant poverty reducing impact if we did it. And we would need 50 million or 100 million. And the country director has a certain amount from IDA, from the International Development Association, a revolving funding pot, if you want, to allocate, and has to choose priorities. And if this is a priority, then we get the allocation.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, I think it's amazing work you're doing, and that's why you're on this series. You're a leader who cares. I mean, it's very obvious, right? Hey, you know, my grandparents always used to say with a Kiev accent, because they were from the Ukraine, they always used to say, as long as you have your health, that's the most important thing. And it wasn't a slogan. Oh, you got a neighbor there. All right.
I have my early childhood advisor with me.
Hi.
Early childhood advisor. I think you need to study the areas of the brain. How is that? Right?
I was going to ask. This is the one who will tell me.
And that's my mom, Rebekka.
That's right. And that's my son, Aramis, right?
What's your name?
Okay.
You know, my grandparents always used to say with a Kiev accent from Ukraine, they used to say, as long as you have your health, that's the most important thing. And then they would say you need education too, but it was the health that, and it wasn't a slogan. It was because of all their experiences, it was for real, not just a branding type of thing. So with your experiences around the world and some of the great stuff you've done, I want to know, technology is still going super fast. We have the pandemic. We've got racial justice that was going to hit a tipping point. It just decided this was a good time to do it. And everything else going on. We have wildfires here. There's everything going on. What's your perspective on if there's an awakening, if you will, about that people are having the time to think about what's really important out there?
Right, like you mentioned COVID, right? And it's sort of the awareness shock, and I mean, it has to be recognized that is quite a substantial impact, right? It is sort of COVID is a shock to the world, and it's a recession that, you know, in my client countries has a very negative impact. It reverses decades of progress in poverty reduction. And my colleagues have calculated that 100 million more people are kicked into poverty. So it definitely has to be recognized. There's an impact, and there are things we have to do in the short run, you know, the stimulus package, and we do something similar in our client countries with cash transfers, and also then but it's not just the immediate mitigation, it's also the system building. The thing we do different is, like, you know, building up the education system, building up the health system, so it is more resilient for any other shock that may be coming. So that needs to be happening. For the Western, more prosperous countries, I do think COVID or the lockdown has a silver lining, right? In that, like, and you alluded to it, that we become more conscious and we realize, we can do without flights, and we can do without commutes, and we can be more self-reliant. And so maybe that, you know, that prompts a structural transformation that has a lot of good in it, away from some contaminating activities and towards, more sustainable ones. And we have a window of opportunity of thinking about that and getting ourselves climate ready, so to speak. And in a way, you know, you can see it on the satellite images that the planet is breathing a sigh of relief, right, with this lockdown. So that is a silver lining and an opportunity I think we should not lose, but really, you know, think back on how can we be more sustainable, more frugal maybe, and have a somewhat different, more self-reliant lifestyle when we come out of this. And I think you mentioned, you touched on social justice as well, as in, like, there's a new awareness, there's a tipping point. I'm so happy that tipping point arrived. I got to be really honest. I think it was time. I think there was something brewing for a long time, and it was really high time it happened. And you know, people, and maybe all of us, got our eyes opened and an awareness and can look at that anew. And it doesn't mean everything's fine now. I think a lot still needs to happen. But it's like, in a way, a screen has been wiped, right? And we see a bit more clearly, and now we can take better decisions and, and build back, adjust the world. So,
yeah,
I think that is the silver lining. Yeah.
That's a brilliant way of putting it. And I totally agree. I think, when COVID first started, there's a lot of birds around me, and I swear they were singing like crazy, something like, I don't know where all the humans went, but this is really cool, something like that. and the ocean was cleaner and things were happening. And I also agree. It's if we were given a chance to do things right again, whether it comes to agriculture, whether it comes to healthcare, whether all these things, we've done so many things wrong that hopefully this does give us a chance for real systemic change in so many ways, to do things the way they should be, and maybe go back in time to see how natural things were, and things that people were doing correctly. So, I totally agree. Let me ask you also, with respect to business leaders, because I'm basically have the opinion that it's the business leaders who care, in effect, that I think can make the biggest impact. And it's not just about money, but that's part of it. What do you think their role should be in taking care of what I call the three well-beings of their employees and community? There's the financial well-being and the physical and mental well-being. What role do you think they should play in making sure that's around?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot can be done exactly on those three, and financial, physical, and mental. And it's good for business, right? If you do it. So if I think financial, I mean, pay fair wages, right? And check your corporate wage bill. I mean, there is a lot of scope to build more equities in that wage bill. See if there's a gender pay gap, see if there are any ethnic pay gaps, and remedy those. And you would even gain in efficiency. I mean, as an economist, I say a firm should ideally pay everyone at their marginal productivity. And to be honest, right now, many corporate wage bills don't look like that. They're a bit more disparate than would be efficient. So if you look at your wage bill and you want to be a bit more equitable and want to get closer to what would be efficient, you actually do both. You're fairer, you care for your people, or you care for a larger number of people, and you make your company a bit more profitable. And it's similar about the physical and mental well-being, right? It's like, I mean, you have the whole person working for you. It's not just their workforce, it's not just their productivity, but it's a whole person with needs, with a family, with health, with and you want that whole person to be fine, to be good, and that will be good for business. And very often those are very small adjustments. There's a flexible schedule, or I mean, you don't always have to build a whole childcare into your headquarters, right? Although that can be a very profitable investment. And my colleagues at IFC actually have a very nice global study showing just that, showing how employer-based childcare is actually a very efficient investment. But there's a flexible schedule. If you know a certain health issue, just get people into touch with the right services, make connections. Very small effort, and a huge reward for the person, and but also for the company, retaining great talent and enabling that talent to work very well. So I think that's I think you really put your finger on the right things there.
Yeah, I think you said it well too. So let's just hope we keep moving in the same direction. I think you're right. I think there's a silver lining to a lot that's going on, and it's up to us to make it happen. So. Hey, listen, thank you so much for participating. You clearly are one of the leaders who care, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really exciting.